What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk on the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming to you solo for the next, we'll say 5 to 10 minutes before you'll hear this entire intro again, as Jordan and I talk about training camp opening up on Wednesday and our expectations for the offensive side of the ball. Three things we're looking forward to during camp on the offensive side of the ball. But we recorded that and the defensive side on Saturday, and we got some big news that Packers right tackle Zach Tom has signed a massive extension, 4 years, $88 million, about $22 million annually if the money's even across the each year of his 4 year deal, which it probably won't be. It'll probably rise as it usually does, but includes a record setting $30.2 million signing bonus. Just a huge win for the Green Bay Packers. Zach Tom has been an arguably one of the best tackles in the NFL since he was a fourth round pick back in 2022. And a guy that really isn't talked about that much across the league, or I guess I should say by like media members, as one of the best tackles in the NFL, but is definitely talked about by his peers as such. I think it was Zach Jacobson who had tweeted out earlier this today on what's today Monday, the old Will Anderson interview from I think it's Kevin Clark if I'm not mistaken, of him at training or during the Super Bowl media tour. He said Zach Tom was the best tackle he'd ever faced. So that's a some high praise. So I'm I'm very happy Zach Tom gets his extension done. Uh, One of the biggest, I guess, like check marks of the offseason for the Packers. I think they had anticipated doing this for probably the entire offseason. And I would imagine part of the reason they moved on from Jair it was to fund some more of Zach Tom's extension going forward, including the next 2 years. Um, I believe he was entering a contract year. Yeah, that makes sense. So, locked up in Green Bay through 2029. Uh, I mean, $30 million signing bonus, and $88 million on his contract. That's left tackle money. So I think one of the biggest things that just Zach Tom brings to the line in general is just his ability to sort of plug any hole that they should have. Like he had experience at center in college, and they can throw them there, like break glass in case of emergency. I think he played right tackle starting his sophomore season. I think he's played a little bit at right guard throughout his rookie year, and they kind of just bounced him around. But he really does have ability just to move across the line at any position and fill in if need be, like I said, in case of emergency. But he's also just a great lineman, just outstanding. I think he's rated pretty highly across PFF's grades his entire career. Like a lot of green, not a lot of red. This is from Mark. I'll say Oldakers. Sorry, Mark, if if you're a tot listener, but I probably butchered your name. But just high grades. Like last year, his zone grade and like zone blocking was 97%. That's just good. His run blocking average 86, 84, and 23 and 24. That's just really good. Pass blocking 69, 71, 67. Just like really good across the board. A guy that very rarely makes mistakes. You're not gonna see him getting a lot of penalties, not a lot of holdings. Just a guy that really locks down the right side of that line. And I would argue in ways also kind of covered up some blemishes of former right guards. Like you think of John Runyon Jr. and sort of the growing pains that Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan had as they kind of came into their own. But Zach Tom was there the last few years to really hold it down and sort of cover up any blemishes. So I'm sure Jordan will have more to say on Zach Tom, but I'm very excited to see this get done. I think the next one is EJ. We'll see if they get a deal done in camp or if he'll enter the season without a new contract. I'm earnestly curious to see how that shakes out. But yeah, getting Zach Tom locked up, not have to worry about right tackle for the next, I think 5 years now. Yeah, 5 years now, 5 seasons is a big plus. Good for Brian Gutekunst to get this deal done and not have it drag into camp, because I think he's one of the guys you absolutely could not lose on the line. You don't want to lose EJ either, but Zach Tom-esque players don't come around very often, especially not as fourth round picks. Like, you think of a player like Zach Tom is now usually first or second round guys. And so got the Packers to lock him up. So that does it for this. Take this front part of the pod in context with anything we say about Zach Tom in the second part of this pod when we ultimately talk about the offensive line and what we're looking forward to seeing from that unit during camp. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy the intro yet again. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast, as a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, and joining me after a much-needed and well-rested hiatus is my lovely co-host, Jordan Chesky. Jordan, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. We didn't show up for OTAs.
No, we were looking for a new
Um,
contract, and Ty didn't budge, and we you know what, we just came back because we love the grind.
yeah, it wasn't a holdout. It was a hold
It was a
in.
hold in. Well, no, it was a holdout. We didn't record.
It's true, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. A pod in, a pod out. I don't know what that would be.
Yeah,
Um,
not a lot happened since we last recorded.
no, that's the other thing. There's really it was Jair, and then obviously that was
I
the
didn't feel
last
like
one.
doing weekly episodes on Anthony Belton not signing, but he signed,
Yeah,
so
he
hooray!
did sign. So now our
No, we're caught
our
up.
holdout is
We're caught up.
our holdout has ended because Anthony Belton signed.
That's right. He was the last piece we were waiting for.
I think we were also waiting on the turmoil to explode with the NFL Players Association. If anybody's been following
Following
that
that,
story,
yeah.
J.C. Treader, former Packer, covered in glory.
Former Brown.
He was a Packer.
Uh, uh, Brown.
You don't want to claim him. I understand that. Unfortunately, someone associated with the Browns owns another Wisconsin sports team and is doing a pretty good job, if you ask me.
You're giving Jimmy Haslam his flowers? Wow. Never thought I'd see the day.
I'm zigging when other people are zagging.
Okay, okay. Uh, but
Kidding.
training camp starts on Wednesday. Rookies and quarterbacks reported yesterday, I believe, which was Friday. So,
Oh yeah.
um, that was a funny little anecdote on Twitter. Everyone's like, "Oh, look at Jordan Love. Look at his leadership style, showing up 3 days early to practice to make sure the rookies get their camp." No, that's just his job. He just had to be there.
Freshly married too.
Freshly married, freshly off his honeymoon, which looked like a wonderful time.
Pizza Hut.
I mean, go. I mean, get the money, big guy. If I could have Pizza Hut sponsor my wedding, it would have been uh, there would have been churches for the world to see with people whose eyes are open.
Would you need to get a third tier national pizza
Wow,
chain? What?
how
What?
dare you?
Not to go on a tangent in our first Packers pod in a while.
What if Pizza Hut wants to sponsor us?
I guess they have sponsored another Jordan.
Yeah,
So there is precedent.
there is precedent.
I just remember when Pizza Hut was really good when I was a kid. And maybe it's because you're a kid and
So maybe
pizza
because you were
is
a kid.
that might be it. That might be what it is. But yeah, I was yeah. Good for him. It doesn't matter.
Stuffed crust though. Stuffed crust. That's where it's at. Anyways, before we hop into training camp, and we have this episode, we have three expectations for the offense during training camp, sort of what we're looking for. Um, Before we hop into that, and the next episode will be defense. Let's talk a little bit about Mark Murphy and his tenure as Packers president and CEO coming to a
Earth.
close as he as he is forcibly removed from that position, taking him by his collar and his pant loops, hucking him out of the out of the seat in favor of Ed Policy. Um, but obviously, Mark Murphy, longtime uh, president and CEO of the Packers, oversaw a lot of changes to the organization, including a Super Bowl win, and sort of carried the torch, I believe, out of the Ron Wolf era, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right, Jordan? He was the president and CEO out of that?
No.
No, because Ron Wolf was GM. Because I'm a dummy.
Ron Wolf was GM. Ron Wolf left. Mike Sherman took over both duties when he
Yeah,
was coach. When Mike Sherman got fired, and Bob Harlan officially stepped down as
that's what it was. Yeah,
yes.
Bob Harlan.
Their initial replacement, fun fact, anybody looking for a trivia question and answer, I believe the man was Jack Jones and he had a heart attack. This is during the 2006 season. He had to step down because of obvious health reasons.
John Jones. I'm reading the
John Jones, there
I'm
we
reading the
go.
Wikipedia page.
John Jones, not the UFC fighter.
Yep.
Um, he stepped down, and then Bob Harlan stepped in as the interim kind of holdover bridge CEO, if you will, that led to Mark Murphy taking over in late 2007,
Correct.
on the verge of the Brett Favre saga.
Yep. And so since then, a lot of stuff. Like they did a couple of renovations to Lambeau, including the south end zone. The atrium was like the big final project that Bob Harlan had worked on to get that renovated. But then in the first years of Mark Murphy's tenure, they go to the Super Bowl, they win that, and then he just oversees this. I mean, what is essentially Aaron Rodgers' entire career in Green
Yeah,
Bay, and then plus a
yeah.
couple years of Jordan Love. So a really a very long winning tenure for Mark Murphy, and I think in a era where, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, I don't no, they went 8 and 9 22, right? I think that
Yes.
was that their only losing record season,
Um, no, because McCarthy's
or
last year would have
2018.
been McCarthy's last 2 years would have been losing records. Um,
I'm checking. I'm checking.
I got Rob Demoski's article on. Let me see if he has a
Yeah,
final total.
17, 18, and 22 were losing records, and 2008, weirdly enough, which was Rogers' first year. So yeah,
Radford, yeah,
so I was wrong. Then that's twice in 5 minutes for me. We're off to a great start.
we're working
We're
out the
work,
cobwebs.
yeah, shaking the rust off. Regardless, I think for all that is said about Mark Murphy and just the kind of I don't know where I'm going with this because like the draft record isn't his fault, and then like that's just not 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 his ordeal. But I can't think of anything like bad they've done as opposed to we're not getting off on the right foot with Ed Policy saying that we're trying to keep the team in Green Bay. Whatever that story was like back in June, he had some weird
Wait,
comment.
what?
Ed Policy back in like May June had some weird comment about like trying to keep the Packers in Green Bay for forever, as if like there is an alternative. Yeah, it was a weird comment, but
Edward.
Edward, regardless, I think it's a fun end to an era for Mark Murphy, considering like his pride and joy was getting the draft to Green Bay. He does that, and then he gets to kind of like showcase all of his work that he done to the Lambeau Field district, if you will, the Titletown district, with the new hotel they put up, and then the field and all that stuff there. Like it made that stretch of Lombardi Avenue there really cool when it used to be not really cool as someone who grew up there. Like the Kmart, the Big Lots, the the old donut shop that was there when I was a child, the rundown hotel. There was a bar there. There's a couple of gas stations. It was very much just like, oh, plop Lambeau Field in, and now they've sort of built up that half mile stretch there to be something very very cool and like not that Lambeau Field was a destination obviously, but leveraging the work that Bob Harlan did, making having the atrium built and having that be its own destination with the pro shop and the Packers Hall of Fame right at Lambeau, and uh, having that stretch and then redoing some of the area by the Don Hudson Center and stuff like that. They
Yep.
really made that stretch look nice.
No, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of angles that we can go here. Obviously, when you are essentially the number one of a unique ownership situation
Right.
with a professional sports team in North America. Um, but Mark Murphy has overseen a, pretty much the boom period in terms of the Packers being a full
Mm-hmm.
year destination. That
Mm-hmm.
Bob Harlan kind of did the hard work to, convince support of the city of Green Bay, obviously Wisconsin lawmakers, all the kind of brouhaha that comes with convincing state officials or city officials to give monies to sports franchises. But Mark Murphy helped kind of keep everything not just afloat, but again, the boom period. Um, as you mentioned, just a lot of things have changed even when I was a kid. Not that I lived there, but I went to a couple Packer games. I definitely went to training camps. And what Green Bay used to look like when I was a puny 5-year-old kid, wanting everybody's autograph that wouldn't give me a ton of time of day, um, looks totally different now. Like it is still it's what makes Green Bay famous, and there's a lot of responsibility to keep that and maintain that kind of integrity built within the community, but also integrity within running a sports franchise in the smallest city in North America that has a sports franchise, a pro sports team. So there's a lot of expectations. It wasn't perfect. There were some wobbly moments. Obviously, you could say the Favre thing, the Rodgers thing. Those that comes with players of that caliber, of that talent, of that ego. But I think no matter how you look at it, even if we could always talk about wasted opportunities. I think even Mark Murphy reading Rob Demoski's article at the time when it came out last month and kind of rereading it for ahead of the podcast. It's like whatever Mark Murphy did for the Packers was to make the Packers, or it was by Packers first. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players, a lot of legacies attached to playing for the Packers. And if you leave, or if you retire, or if you get traded, whatever it is, there's always kind of this hurt element of it, um, that comes with leaving a team that has such a close connection to Green Bay. Yeah, I mean, it's your Packer that means something very different than if it was, I don't know, you're a Jaguar. Um, not to throw
Sure.
stones, but be like that. I think for me, that's where I never ever got the kind of vitriol that would be directed towards him if it was something with during the Favre years, as crazy as that was, because that brought in. There will never be anything like that in my lifetime, of just like how just strange that was. Um, and then when the Rogers thing happened over the last, kind of the slow, gradual fade out of that era, they were perfect. Those two decisions, coupled with everything else, that carried such a gravity with how the Packers run things, and it was made with the same decision or same kind of mantra of like, we will do what we think is best for the Packers long term. And when it's in the middle of the season and you're trying to chase a Super Bowl, it sucks that people think like you could have gone after Odell Beckham or you could have gone after this guy or that. I mean, but they never changed that ethos
No.
of how they run things. And I don't think I to kind of close this tangent. I think that is ultimately the best way to run your franchise. We know a lot about sports owners now than ever before.
Hmm.
And a lot of these people make themselves bigger than the team in some cases, like if it's a Jerry Jones or Robert Kraft or I don't know, whoever else. Daniel Snyder once upon a time for not the greatest reasons. But you can't do that in Green Bay. You have to be it's always viewed as you have this time and your time will pass and you have to pass the baton. So do what you can the best way.
Yep.
And that's not easy for some people, but I think Mark Murphy showed that it was pretty easy for him to do.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. 100%. Um, and I think that's unique. Like obviously the Packers, like you had mentioned, the Packers ownership structure is unique in and of itself, but it's not easy to find a guy that's has that title that doesn't want to meddle, doesn't want to have his fingers in the proverbial soup that is the team, like and
Yeah.
have influence over personnel decisions or how the team should be playing and things like that. Because like a lot of these guys grew up around football. Mark Murphy played football, obviously, and so it's like for him to have that separation of powers between the coach, the GM, and the president, I think was really special. And to sort of to wrap up on like the full circle of it all, it seems that Mark Murphy sort of instilled those values in Ed Policy. Ed Policy did like the or article with the Press Gazette back in June. This is where I was coming from with that Jordan that or
Mm,
earlier. This is
that
from
quote.
yeah, it's from the Press Gazette. This isn't a quote per exactly, but I think he had a Q&A on Packers.com is where it's coming from. But
Mm.
winning championships, or more specifically Super Bowls, is policy's number one priority, followed by making sure the Packers remain in Green Bay and that they work to strengthen the community. It's like that middle one shouldn't have to be mentioned.
That physically cannot happen.
Right. So just don't say it.
Yeah.
But they talked about, or the article talks about how no team wants two coaches or two GMs essentially, and like how he's gonna stay relatively hands off with those decisions. He said, "quote I see the president's role as selecting football leadership, guiding them, and give them all the resources they need, and supporting them, evaluating them, and then ultimately holding them accountable." So I'm fine if that's how he goes. That's fine. Like this isn't an ed policy discussion, and I don't think we should have to talk about ed policy more than what twice a year, one during shareholders meetings, and maybe in the middle of the year or the end of the season, essentially, if he even talks.
Well, and this is the other thing that Mark Murphy was pretty transparent. I mean, he would do the Mark Murphy Takes Five. I, I think that was either monthly or twice a month or
I think it was
whatever.
monthly.
That's still like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd
You
rather him do
don't.
that than be Jerry Jones in the media.
People don't have to. They don't have to do that. There's a lot of people. Look at John Horst. It is once every 6 months. It's around the trade deadline and it's around free agency. Otherwise, he's not really there. And you don't hear from the owners because John Horst is speaking for the owners and the
Right.
organization. So, and you have Peter Feige in that mix with, in the sense of the Bucks. Mark Antanasio is kind of the same way where you probably hear from him before the playoffs,
No,
before
you're
spring training.
they hear from Mark a lot. He's on broadcast a lot.
Yeah, that is true. I
To
forget. I'm forgetting the local TV element that
yeah,
obviously
that
does
baseball
exist with the NFL.
and well, even that like you don't see John Horst on Bucks games often. Like it's
No,
I think
he
that's
would
that's
be
pretty
like,
unique
oh,
to that's pretty unique to the Brewers that like I mean what they have Rick Schlesinger on every homestand to talk about parking, and
yeah.
then I think
They
Mark
brought up
Attanasio
the
they do
white paint to make a parking lot square.
they do they have Mark Attanasio on like three times a year. It's usually like the beginning of the year, middle, and then sort of as like September rolls around.
But there is just something, again, transparency or kind of like fans can reach out to him, and it's like this, granted, a curated inbox, but
But to be
still, it's
fair, it's not like softball questions.
no, he's answering some hard questions, or
Yeah,
like there would be some information when the Roger stuff was kind of brewing that he would answer directly. And would he probably generate headlines for that? Yeah. But I don't know. The thing is like this is a bigger discussion probably, but like when someone like that of that position of that like ilk is doing stuff like that, you realize what is missing in other sports teams or what other teams aren't doing to kind of like reach out, garner fan connection that, yeah, it's on Packers.com and it probably generates plenty of views and clicks if you want to look at it cynically, but it's just a way to connect yourself to your team, and that's the whole point of why the Packers thing is unique to everything to begin with.
Correct. Sorry, I had to blow mine out.
I was gonna keep going, but then I was like, oh god.
That's all right.
Um, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting how Ed Policy, notwithstanding his that comment um, of the keeping the Packers
Right.
Green Bay, but there'll be there will be some ripple effects in some way, and we will feel it in maybe it's as soon as free agency next year with how many draft picks that they had to commit money to.
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
Or I was just gonna say like there we'll soon be in how will Ed Policy run the Packers or not run the Packers but direct the Packers if you will orchestrate the Packers in ways that may be similar to Mark Murphy or it could be vastly different. We don't know.
Well, I think the first probably real decision we'll see from Ed Policy is
Yes.
how they handle Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst's contracts. Like those are coming up at the end of this year.
That's yes.
Like
Well, and I believe he talked about it.
yeah,
Was it with Matt Schneidman had it? I never. We've been doing this for almost
for for
4 years
for
now,
so long.
and I can't
It probably
remember.
is a tiny bit of an indictment on us that we don't listen to the Athletic to his
But it's
podcast.
I
Right, but we
man.
we haven't listened to him speak to say I'm Matt Schneeman or Matt Schneidman.
Yeah. Um. Let me see. This is the exact quote. Um. Incoming team. This is a long quote. Both Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst have 2 years remaining on their contracts. Incoming team president Ed Policy told local beat writers on Friday, so this is last month, that he's not extending either of them entering the season, which is not parenthetical, which is not unusual around the league with 2 years remaining, and parenthetical, and is generally opposed to the head coach and general manager working with just 1 year remaining on their deals. So a lot could be riding on this season results wise to garner confidence in both or either getting contract extensions.
I mean, I think that's fair. Like, I think Matt LaFleur's a good coach. I think Brian Gutekunst is a good GM. But if you go, if it goes poorly this year, I could see changes being made at the end of next season. I don't think they either one get fired after the season unless it goes for really bad. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Like that, we're now
Yeah,
towing into Ed Policy, which I
true, but it may be preview questions for another time.
for another time. For another time. So let's end the Mark Murphy talk and instead get into some real football. Real football. Training camp starts on Wednesday. Like I said earlier, Jordan Love, quarterbacks, Malik Willis, and the others and rookies reported on Friday. But this episode will be offense, sort of what we're looking for players, themes, battles, all that kind of stuff for the offense. And the next episode will be all the defense. So, Jordan, I will give. Oh, I suppose we probably should do a tiny bit of news first. As we mentioned, Anthony Belton uh, signed his contract this, as one of the many second rounders that didn't sign them throughout the offseason, and now the big wave of them uh, are now signing. And then, so like, I was like, that's good, second round player, this, that, and the other. Um, five bunch of players placed on various lists. Christian Watson, Quay Walker, and then late round draft picks Colin Oliver, Mike Robinson, and John Williams were all placed on the physically unable to perform list, and then uh, and then Elton Jenkins, running back Amar Johnson, and kicker Alex Hale were placed on the non-football injury list. So two of those we'll talk about during this episode. Obviously, Christian Watson and Elton Jenkins. But um, first and foremost, Jordan, what is your first thing you're looking for during training camp, sort of expectations, just stuff you want to see be reported from obviously the beat writers up there working camp.
Let's get to it. Let's look at that wide receiver battle.
That was obviously one of mine.
Yeah, this is already going to be the biggest talking point going into camp,
Yep.
regardless if they had taken wide receiver in the first round of the NFL draft.
I think it's the biggest talking point, but not by much. And we'll talk about the other one that I
Ooh,
think is later.
okay. But when you select Matthew Golden in the first round and this drought of not taking a wide receiver in the first round for 23 years before that, um, it creates expectations that you want to improve the overall room. Christian Watson being hurt, not surprised. Well, not I shouldn't say not surprised, but be on the pup list, and who knows? He's on a separate timeline to this Packers team, and quite frankly, the future Packers teams. Um, but Matthew Golden obviously adds some excitement. So does Savion Williams,
Yep.
right? Um, but it's competition. It's competition for Jaden Reed, who kind of had a weird summer with all the in light of the Matthew Golden selection, there was some kind of stirring of what does this mean for my role? What does this mean? He's
He did come out and say that that was more agent talk than it was him. Like his agent had asked versus he had asked. Maybe.
my two
Or that
cents.
or it's crisis crisis management kind of thing.
Yes. However, if you're a good agent or if you're an agent, I would imagine that you're representing your client with questions that they may have.
Sure. Yeah. That I understand your point. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but go ahead.
There's something. It's in the gray. It's in the gray.
Yeah.
But Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs going into contract year. Dontavian Wicks, we know about his ills,
Drops.
his drops. Um, McCole Hardman was brought in. He's fighting for a roster spot. Who am I missing of kind of prominent guy? The bubble guys, Malik Heath, Bo Melton.
Yep.
There's a lot of guys there. There's at least 8 guys that could vie for, I would imagine, 6 max spots on the 53-man roster going into the year.
Yep.
So it's not just a matter of who's going to be on the team, but then it's, who is the pecking order? Who is garnering kind of, Jordan Love has some connection or some rapport with, the guys that have been there before the draft, but it didn't really work out as well as we hoped going into last year and throughout last season. And so there's just a lot of storylines and a lot of things to be watching for. And obviously you want to see Matthew Golden kind of hit the ground running, literally. But we also went through this with Romeo Dobbs. There was a couple camps where we're just like, he's doing all this stuff. This is great. Yada yada yada. Um, but consistency has been the name of the game for these Packers pass catchers, specifically the wide receivers for since Devontae left.
Yeah.
So, and that's with good reason. Devontae Adams is a future Hall of Famer, probably.
Right. Should be.
Um, should be, yeah, but at least bubble. Um, but I just want to. We're gonna. It's a season long thing of who emerges as the number one, who can kind of put past their inconsistencies, who's gonna make the team. There's just a lot there that the next 5 to 6 weeks will determine those questions, and then the next 4 to 5 months will determine the rest of those questions.
Yeah. I mean, that like you said, I think it's the biggest story, at least from like casual fans, that they're going into is how's Matthew Golden gonna look? How does Jaden Reed fix his issues from last year with all of his drops? But I think the biggest thing for me is how does like all of this pecking order shake out once early September comes along, and who ends up being the starters. Jaden Reed was
Yeah,
putting in a lot of work over the summer, working on the jugs machine. There's a couple of Instagram stories of him doing that, and so like at least he's working on it. Dontavian Wicks looked just Dontayvion Wicks in practice looks just so different than the rest of the wide receivers because his footwork and his separation ability is just so good. It just if he can put it together with his hands, he's going to be a good receiver. But that's a big if
Yeah.
for him right now in his uh in his career. And so during training camp, I want to see what's going on with with Jaden Reed's ability to catch balls consistently, with Dontayvion Wicks' ability to honestly go pretty much mistake free throughout camp. Like you'll have one or two there, but if he's really going to take that jump that he needs to progress his career, it needs to be shown in camp. And if it leverages itself towards the regular season, that's good too. But the what I'm looking for, I mean, the pass catchers. This is like an overarching theme that I think we can loop into the receivers is like how do Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave play into this room as well?
Yeah.
And so looping into this receiver room by like the in the same single expectation is what does the offense look like when they're throwing the ball? Who's out there? Is it more of force feeding Tucker Kraft? Is it more of getting Jaden Reed out of the backfield and more running downfield as a real receiver versus a lot of the sort of gadgety stuff that he was being used with last year and in his rookie year? Does that spot get taken by Savion Williams? What is his role? And I'm sure he'll be a primary kick and punt returner, but they spent I think a fourth round pick on him or a third round pick on him.
I think it's third. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't just spend third round picks on receivers to kind of put him as a kick returner, punt returner right away. And so
No.
it's gonna be interesting to see how they orient their offense around Jordan Love, because I think they said at the end of the season last year they want Tucker Kraft more involved, and I think that's a good idea. He's a very good tight
Yes.
end
He might be the best pass catcher that they have.
right now. Yeah, depending on like as like going into the season, proven ability. I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I won't get into it, but yeah, there's just a lot of unknowns there, and I think training camp is going to be a good spot to see what Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff have come up with to try and fix those issues, like working in Tucker Craft a lot more, seeing if Romeo Dobbs can be a little bit more consistent in the end zone. He gets a lot of end zone targets, which to be fair to his credit, but I like he doesn't he doesn't pop as a receiver. You know, like we've said this before. He's a really good wide receiver too. And
Yeah.
so maintaining that level of play for him is important, like you said, going to a contract year. And then I want to see Matthew Golden kind of wow me in camp. I want to see him like full speed, what we're kind of doing. What's he doing to grab a hold of that wide receiver one spot and not let anyone else take it? Because I think I mean, if he wants it, I think he could probably take it, depending on
Yeah.
how everyone else is faring. Because Jaden Reed and Dante Hooks have to prove they can catch the ball.
Yeah.
And if Matthew Golden's out there consistently catching the ball, making moves, and just being a good receiver, I wouldn't be surprised if he's out there out wide week one.
I mean, I think anything. I truly think anything is on the table with this wide receiver room.
Yeah, which is crazy. I don't love the uncertainty with it, but I think that's where we've come to.
I don't love it either, but I think it is just kind of what they were. Whether it was just selecting a wide receiver in the first round itself, like you kind of needed a shock to the system.
Yeah,
Um, and you know,
you ever
Brandon
seen?
Good.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Goody. His thing has always been internal competition.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is how it shakes out. This is how you sustain a winning team in the long run. Whether you get over the top is a different question, but that that's kind of where the Packers are at. They need to kind of they took a step back last year. They got a hard ass schedule this year.
Yep.
They need to keep. They can't. It can't be a blip on the radar from a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago.
Right. You watch Parks and Rec?
Of course.
You know the scene when Ron Swanson or the office. Like I think the coffee pot broke or something, and they all start fighting in the office, and it cuts to Ron doing an interview with the camera, and it said like he's like, I broke the coffee pot. It was getting a little too chummy in there. He wanted a
Yes.
little bit
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
fighting. Like that's I think that's Goody. He's like it's getting a little too
Yes.
chummy in the wide receiver room last year.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of competition, and I think we talked about that. Wide receiver room last year, in order from camp, was Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Dontavia Wicks, Bull Melton, Malik Heath. Stop. There was
Yeah.
that was the pecking order.
Yep.
Now throw in Matthew Golden and Savion Williams as an injection of like, hey, you guys, like these guys have talent. They're younger, they're hungry, they're rookies. They can push you out. Like especially you two, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs. Obviously Watson being hurt with his ACL, but Romeo Dobbs and Jaden Reed now too. Like you have to show that you can compete, and
Yeah.
hopefully that that internal competition begets results from everybody.
That's what you hope for.
Alrighty, what is? I'll give you my because that was my not my number one as well. The next thing I'm looking for and what I thought was a what could be the biggest story going into camp for people who are interested in this aspect is how does the offensive line shake out? Because we've got a lot of uncertainty right now with excuse me with Elton Jenkins being not reporting to camp essentially. We don't know if he's holding in or holding out. Obviously, that was the holding in term is kind of new to the last few years where
Give it good.
well guys looking for new contracts who are on good terms with the team but just don't want to get hurt in camp and then lose all their leverage. Just hold in. They're there for team meetings. They're there for practices. They're just physically not practicing. So it'll be interesting to see if Elton Jenkins is holding in or he's holding out. If he's holding out, I don't love that. I don't think having EJ in there for coverages is so important. Like blocking coverages because he's been there so long, he kind of knows the deal. It's like when Jordan Love was holding in during his contract. That's important so you can see how like plays are progressing and developing and can see what he will be seeing as a quarterback. I'm not sure that's so important for EJ, but
Especially with the new position change.
right. So like for all intents and purposes, Packers plan on EJ being at center, which is why I think, which is a big reason why he's holding in or holding out, why he's not reporting to camp, is because he's in a contract year. He's played right guard, I'm sorry, left guard for the majority of his career at the Packers.
7 seasons?
Yep, something like that. Or it's been a long time he's been at left guard,
Yeah.
and he's bounced around a game here, a game there, but his primary position has been left guard. And so entering a contract year, him going to center, I forget if he said it or if I saw it as like a tweet or something, but the idea of being okay, I'm entering a contract year, you're putting me at a new position. I'm not going to let you play with my money coming to me at the end of the season if I don't have as good of a season at center as I did at left guard because it's a different role. You're snapping the ball. You don't have both hands ready when the ball is snapped. And
Yeah.
so I don't blame Elton Jenkins for not reporting. Like I think this is a reasonable holdout for him for the sole purpose of like, yeah, you're a talented I think was he all pro at one point? For sure Pro Bowl uh
Yes.
lineman and you're getting thrown in a new position. So no, I don't blame EJ at all. But that I mean, there's that aspect. You have Aaron Banks thrown in at right guard, I'd imagine, or left guard. It kind of, or yeah, ESPN has his position at left guard, but then
Essentially replacing Elton
EJ,
Jenkins.
right?
Yeah.
But then Zach Tom is the only other for sure spot. Like Sean Ryan at right guard is available, but they just drafted Anthony Belton, who could replace Rasheed Walker at left tackle, and Jordan Morgan still waiting in the wings. Like, does he stay at right guard or do they move him to left tackle? Like, there's going to be a lot of shuffling in training camp on what guys are where. I don't think we will have an idea of this is going to be our starting five old linemen until week one. Like I think they're gonna play around a lot even in the preseason games. Like I don't think there'll be anything to garner about or anything of significance to garner from who's starting on the line in the preseason games. I just don't think there will be. And so I think that's one of the biggest things is that what does Matt LaFleur and company think of who are their best five linemen across the board? Because they drafted Jordan Morgan in the first round last year. I'd imagine they wanted him to play left tackle. Like that's you really only draft linemen in the first round if you're getting either like elite guard play
Yeah.
or you draft left tackles because they're important. And so obviously coming off of his shoulder injury last year, he didn't get a chance to prove himself. And even before that, he was in a platoon with Sean Ryan at right guard before honestly Ryan kind of took hold of that position even before Jordan Morgan got hurt. So Rasheed Walker is, I believe, in a contract year and is cheap.
Yes, yes.
And so if they want to, like, I've talked about this since the offseason, but if they wanted to trade him for a pick or something and or for something, I don't know, but they have Anthony Belton and Jordan Morgan there as well. But I don't think they'll do that for the sole purpose of we saw what it looked like when they didn't have a deep line last year in the playoff game, and so I'm very curious to see the progression of like who's going where because I think like the first 2 weeks of camp we'll probably see Jordan Morgan play right guard, and left tackle. I would not be maybe not so much left guard because like that's just kind of Aaron Banks' spot, but as knowledgeable in offensive line technique as I am, which is to say not a lot, I can imagine it's very hard one day to the next going from playing right guard to left tackle.
Yeah.
That's your
Your
footwork,
responsibilities change.
your responsibilities change, your footwork is different. And so I'm curious to see how much shuffling there's going to be or if they're just sticking him somewhere. Cuz like um I don't want to litigate Goody's like draft record because like going in like during training camp. Like, oh, Jordan Morgan's playing right guard and that's kind of going to be his spot. And then I'm forced to be like, well, why the hell did we draft him in the first round then? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't want to have that conversation, but it's going to be something that's going to be rattling on my brain the longer I see him at the guard position, not tackle. But if it works out, it works out. Then that's just fine. But I mean, they have four guys that that need playing time at two spots because you drafted Anthony Bell in the second round, and maybe he's just a draft and develop this year behind Rasheed Walker guy, and then he goes to left tackle next year. They let Rasheed walk, and then but then what do you do with Jordan Morgan and Sean Ryan? Sean Ryan going into a contract year, and so like if he takes a hold of that spot with his big burly man hands and how angry he is when he plays, I love that feature that they got written about him last year.
Belton,
No,
Sean Ryan.
yes,
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Anthony Belton. Remember when he moved that car?
I did not see this.
Oh, he moved a car.
Strong man.
Yeah, he's a pretty strong man.
But then like it just like there's just so many parts to navigate here
Yeah.
because you like just going across the line, the five starters from last year, or yeah, five starters from last or no, not from last year,
No. Well, that's the thing.
is they don't have the fifth guy, but
But that unit played the most snaps of any offensive line until Ellen Jenkins got hurt in the wild card game.
right,
So now everything's kind of in flux
it
to
is.
some degree.
But you have Zach Tom, Sean Ryan, Elton Jenkins at center, Aaron Banks, Rasheed Walker. Like those are the projected starters.
Yeah.
And then what do you do with Anthony Belton and Jordan Morgan? Like that's two high draft picks that deserve playing time. And three guys who don't want to give up their spot because they're going into a contract year.
Yeah, I mean that's you have two guys that are on the this is their last year on before becoming free agents.
No, three.
Elton Jenkins, I was
EJ,
just looking it up.
EJ
He
Sean.
has
Yeah, is
he
it?
has 2 years left on his deal, but they don't have guaranteed money.
Oh, okay,
So
got it.
that's where reworking his contract where yeah.
My
But it
my
again,
apologies for that. I was under the understanding that this was his last year.
but this is it's it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? Because this
Yeah,
is like the Jair thing is that the Packers have structured their contracts in a way where money is not guaranteed. Things can reach that point where all they have to do is exercise the contract or the guarantee on that
right.
year. But it's you pretty much it's an option year, season by season case or season by season based case base whatever. Jesus. Um, but yeah, it's just a lot of again, not dissimilar to the wide receiver room, really. Like if not even more so. Um, a lot of guys that want their money, want assurances for their future in Green Bay. You have, as you mentioned, Jordan Morgan, Anthony Belton, premium draft picks that you took in the last 2 years that need playing time to kind of blossom. And then you just paid a big money guard that you want to see that work out. Look at how many people freaked out about Billy Turner
Yeah,
when Goody gave out that money. I mean, to be fair, too, like
it's a similar contract giving
it's
out
still yeah compared to the market rate,
because
but
Aaron Banks was
we did not expect anything like that.
no.
If anything, we were thinking like maybe they kind of bring back Josh Myers on a kind of what he eventually got from the Jets
Yeah, a
or
small deal.
yeah something like that. But they came out of the blue and it was a contract that showed their intent to get better on the line.
Yeah,
So yeah, a lot of moving parts, a lot of interesting things. I'm gonna say it right now. I think this is kind of gonna be a week by week thing.
I hate
Maybe
that.
maybe injuries play a part in that, but they've shown that they rotate guys in and out.
I mean, but that's only at one position. Like across the line last year, it was Walker, EJ, Josh Myers, and Zach Tom, and then for the most part, it was Sean Ryan. Like Jordan Morgan.
I didn't well the year before Rasheed Walker and he went to the Panthers and now I'm forgetting his name.
Oh yeah. Uh
God, we talk about him all the time.
I got it. I'll look it up. I got you.
Something with a J. Something with a J. Something with a J. 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 J.
Um, they don't have blockers on here. I gotta look at the roster. I'm sure somebody is yelling at us right now.
Yeah. Like it's this guy, you idiots.
That's right. Yash Nyman.
There we go. Something with a J in it. Yeah.
Yash Nyman. You picked the J in the middle of his last
Of
name.
course, that's what I meant. You let me finish. The J in the middle of his last name. That's what I was
Yeah.
anticipating. Um, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's not it's offensive line production and play. Like we're simpletons. We are excited by the fireworks that come with catch ball, go fast,
Yeah.
score a touchdown. But it's the trenches that lead you to the promised land, as the Philadelphia Eagles have shown.
Yep. So yeah, I think that for me, I think the wide receiver room is more exciting. It's
That's
more
why we talked about it first.
right. It's more like what's the word? Digestible. It's easier to understand of like, yeah, they're doing well because they're catching the ball. But I think what really matters will be the wide receiver or the offensive line configuration. Because I really would like them to have one set and not rotate out week to week because just get your reps in as a unit, right?
Yeah.
Like the line looked really good all of last year. Josh Jacobs had a huge year. Jordan Love had a decent year despite his injuries. Like have the consistency, have the week to week repetition of like this is the group. That's just how I see it. So,
Yeah.
all right, what is your your third expectation. This is where we might differ.
I'm trying to frame this in a way that makes sense for training camp.
Okay.
If the Packers improve at all, so in terms of winning the division, possibly, I think that could be up for grabs.
Okay.
If the Packers win a playoff game,
Okay. I'm I'm struggling to see how you're relating this to training camp.
just wait.
I know. I'm trying.
It
I
starts in July.
yep. I know. I'm waiting.
I think we both agree. Jordan Love's year last year was not the best. There were a lot of reasons for that, external reasons. Being hurt on the second to last play of the first game of the season kind of throws off your rhythm.
And then hurting your quad, I think it was, or is
Yeah,
yeah, whatever it was,
missing
and
some
like
games.
yeah,
I think if there are people that have doubts about Jordan Love coming out of last year, it comes with the caveat of, well, he was not healthy. So there's still some uncertainty. You can base it in fact of like he got hurt. The wide receiver room didn't make any Lambo sized leaps. Um, is Jordan Love culpable in that kind of thing? I would agree that yes, he is. But there was just something missing overall. I think with time removed, we you start to see things without fan glasses on and be able to be like, well, he got hurt. It wasn't all there. The passing game, like there were strides made, but it didn't lead to where you ultimately were. The Packers offense in that Eagles game specifically, the playoff game, was a shadow of itself at times earlier in the season, even earlier in the month when they were beating down the pretty terrible 49ers team or Josh Jacobs running through the Dolphins and yada yada yada. Nothing can prepare the Packers for your starting quarterback going down with an injury. However, I would just like to see. I just want to see how Jordan Love responds to kind of all of that. There's always going to be this level of like skepticism about is he the next great Packers quarterback. The only way that definitively gets answered is if the Packers win a Super Bowl, which is the hardest thing you have to do. So I'm not going to expect the world out of him that way, necessarily. But it is just something about if we think 5 to 10 years down the line of like, is this his job to lose, or yeah, or not to lose, but you know what I'm trying to say. And I think he has a lot of motivation going into this year, where it's not about who came before him; it's about what he did last year, where he did make some efforts in the right direction, but there were some things that were in the way of making that a definitive leap forward. And I think for him, I want to see how he responds to all that and how whether it's having new blood in the wide receiver room, whether it's someone asserting themselves as a number one, whether that's Tucker Kraft, um, you know, year three as the starting quarterback offers a lot of opportunities for him to kind of blossom and kind of put past the kind of follow up to a strong first year. So I don't know how that will look like in training camp necessarily beyond the leadership kind of like this is what he's doing or Pizza Hut or whatever. But I just think it's the Packers will go as far as Jordan Love can take them, and it's as simple as that.
yeah, very clearly. This was not my third one, so we'll get to
Hmm.
mine in a minute. But I'm excited to talk about Jordan Love, uh, as we must do, no matter what. We have to draw comparisons. Year three, Jordan Love has high expectations, winning a playoff game, winning a Super Bowl, trying to see if he's the next Packers great. You know who won a playoff or a Super Bowl in year three of their starting tenure after sitting a
Kind of
couple of years?
that guy ruined it for everybody else
Yeah,
moving forward, didn't
sure did. Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, sixth seed going into the playoffs, going that magical run. Obviously. Uh, I believe, yeah, Favre was like 5 seasons into his tenure when they won the Super Bowl. So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I've been listening to a lot of the Athletic Football Show this offseason just because I like Robert Mays and Derek Klassen and what they have to say about the NFL landscape. And they had a fun pod this past week. And the question was, who is the sixth best quarterback in the NFL? Because they had listed
he?
like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Uh, the fourth one is the one escaping me. There's an obvious one, and I'm having trouble thinking of who it
Burrow.
is. Yes, no, not Burrow. Maybe Burrow. It might have been Burrow. But then they Derek Mays was like, or not Derek Mays, Robert Mays is like, I'm I'm
Whoa.
listing I'm listing Justin Herbert as five. I'm done having that conversation about Justin Herbert. They're like
Yeah.
he's five in this exercise, but he's not in the top four tier of I think it was Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, and Jackson. And so then they had a whole pod going through the quarterbacks they think they could make um a this is the sixth best quarterback in the league argument for. And they kind of came to like an early consensus like it probably is Matthew Stafford. But then when they got to Jordan Love and CJ Stroud, they're both like they showed a lot of good things, both like Love and Stroud did in year one of starting. And then year two looked pretty bad. Not pretty bad, but
Wobbly.
wobbly is a good adjective. In that CJ Stroud's offensive line was horrible.
Horrible.
Horrible. Jordan Love dealt with injuries and the a lot of his interceptions were reckless and others were not his fault, bouncing off receivers' hands and things like that. And the receiver situations in general for Jordan Love. And they kind of both they came they had somebody else on too who had I forget who the guest was, but they came to the idea and the sort of agreement that what they showed in year one as starters was not taken away from them because of the year they had last year, because the extenuating circumstances of how they played last year wasn't their fault. Because
Yeah.
they both showed flashes of brilliance last year. And I think that's still like there for them going into this year. And again, they all came to like the kind of agreement that they will have a better understanding of like they will be able to for sure answer who the sixth best QB is this next offseason after this year. Because you could throw like Jane Daniels in there. And like if he has a really good year and Jordan Love and
He
CJ
might follow in
Stroud.
the same footsteps, though.
Right, exactly. And I
Yeah.
think that's the point is like that the way last year shook out with how the young quarterbacks, Jordan Love and CJ Stroud, just didn't really take a step, is now like this is the year we kind of find out who they are. And that's a
Yeah.
very important thing for Jordan Love and the Packers. Is that how does he look healthy, reinvigorated wide receiver room, and a bit more understanding of how they want to play as a team. Like, 'cause I think they're still going to lean on Josh Jacobs a lot this season because he's a good running back.
Yeah.
But I think that like that's the big question of how successful will this team be? Is can Jordan Love carry them to another playoff berth, to hopefully another playoff win, and maybe go on a little run? Because I think if like the beauty of Jordan Love sometimes is his ability to make throws from sort of any platform. We we've harped on it that he sort of
Yeah.
tends to fall back sometimes and throw off his back foot or throw falling away, but he has the talent and the ability to rifle throws into spots where they not many quarterbacks can. Um, oh, I forget who it is. He's on my Twitter timeline right now, and I gotta find the video that he just posted. But if you're on Twitter, you've probably seen. Um, no, I'm not gonna find it, even though I just saw it. One of the Packers guys. I think he's on Pack a Day pretty often. It's gonna annoy me now that I can't find him. Uh, Dusty Evely.
Yeah.
Uh, weekly, almost daily, just posts Jordan Love amazing throws.
Yeah.
And it's like reminder, this is what Jordan Love can do, which I think like is important in the context of how we talk about Jordan Love and how he came out of last year. Because, like, yeah, he can make some really good throws.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm with you that we will see how this season goes. But yeah, we should be seeing a lot of that look really good in camp. And that is to say, it's camp. It's not. We won't know definitively until a couple weeks in the season how he looks. But
Yeah.
I'm with you that it all starts in camp. So
What was your topic?
my topic is one near and dear to my heart. Jordan is, will Emmanuel Wilson hold on to running back
I,
too? Don't don't laugh me off. How dare you?
when you said near and dear to my heart, I was like, here we go. Here we go.
What do you mean? Here we go.
I knew it was going to be Emmanuel
Because
Wilson. Give
because
him the
it
Emmy.
it matters.
It does.
Because Josh Jacobs, obviously, number one running back. He's the guy. But Emmanuel Wilson played really good last year. Played
Yes.
very, very well. And I think in
Packers did
large
not miss AJ Dillon whatsoever.
whatsoever. Like honestly, they played way better than they did without him than with him.
Yeah.
But Emmanuel Wilson last year, 100 carries, 500 yards, and four touchdowns on the ground, and had looks like one touchdown through the air, like receiving. And so, in my mind, he is a very good backup running back. I think he's shown a lot to have a career outside of Green Bay because I think this is his last year with the Packers or under contract with the Packers as well. And so, but the flip side this comes from is they drafted Marshawn Lloyd in the third round last year, and he hurts his hamstring. They give him a they did something with his contract last year where he was just wasn't playing the entire year, and
Yeah.
so I think part of the reason Emmanuel Wilson had such a good year last year is because he wasn't getting pushed by Marshawn Lloyd. They didn't have snaps for him essentially, or they didn't have like somebody taking away his snaps to eat into his production essentially. You had Chris Brooks a little bit towards the end of the year because he was doing such a good job pass blocking, and so like that's an interesting dynamic too. But I think I'm worried, and this is like a worry because I like Emmanuel Wilson a lot. I think he's just a better running back without evidence of the contrary. I'm worried about how much they're going to let Marshawn Lloyd eat into Emmanuel Wilson's touches. Because I think the big thing about Emmanuel Wilson was just that he's going full full effort every single time. And he didn't make a lot of
Yeah.
mistakes. Like he only had he had zero fumbles on the season. And so like sure-handed, always like kind of I shouldn't say always, but showed a lot of like wow in his in his uh in his work. And so having known that Marshawn Lloyd had fumble problems in college and is a bit like coming off a hamstring injury, he didn't see any like football practice play. I think real snaps for almost a year kind of worries me about his production going into the season, but they're going to give him a chance. And I'm very interested to see how that room plays out throughout training camp because like I think they'll give like obviously Josh Jacobs isn't going to play in the preseason. He might get like one drive, right? But it's probably going to be a lot of Emmanuel Wilson, Marshawn Lloyd, and Chris Brooks, and whoever else is in the running back room because they got to make a decision about who they want to carry, who's good at pass blocking, and who's going to be like the the relief to Josh Jacobs when he's on the bench.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see how that shakes out. Very interested because, like I said, I think they're going to give Marshawn Lloyd a shot, and I'm curious to see how long the leash is for him, like in training camp and into the regular season.
It it will be very interesting. Obviously, I think it's kind of like the Emmanuel Wilson is still kind of like the prove it guy because he was undrafted because they had him on the roster for the sake of if they didn't have him on the roster, he could be poached on another practice squad. So they believe in his talent. They have believed in his talent for the last two seasons. Marshawn Lloyd, on the other hand, was the third round pick in the 24 draft. Had a year from hell. It was essentially a redshirt year. We talked about it a lot last year of just like shut him down. You don't need like he had appendicitis, he had a strained calf. Like it was not looking good for him from basically OTAs on. So yeah, you want to see what you have with him. You want to see what you have with Manuel Wilson moving forward. Chris Brooks, Matt LaFleur likes him. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's kind of this kind of everyman quality that you kind of get with him with of just like someone who maybe plays above his means. Because I'm more of a skeptic with Chris Brooks with anybody, but it's not an indictment on him for being passable.
Right. It's just that he's a third string running back whose like calling card is pass blocking.
Yeah. And then you have Savion Williams, who kind of gives you that gadgetry stuff that you'll see in the backfield occasionally. That's a lot of guys. On top of knowing that Josh Jacobs is the workhorse guy, he's gonna any offensive strides that the Packers made last year was because he was the MVP of that offense. You know what I mean? So yeah, again, it's another interesting training camp battle that will determine the confidence level that Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff has in those guys and developing the run game going into the year.
Yep. 100%. 100%. I'm I don't want to be so passionate about this battle because I think this one is like one of the lesser ones that matter because like Josh Jacobs will still be the guy that gets 70% of the touches.
It matters though if he goes down.
It does. But I think if he goes down, then it doesn't really matter as much because then they'll both be getting work.
Yeah, yeah,
But like what I think matters in the context of it is who's going to be your guy that can get yards to spell Josh Jacobs. And given the volatility of an NFL season, it being 17 games, you play half an hour on offense each game, respect like
yeah,
generously. And so there isn't a lot of like you win on the margins in the NFL, and like with the difficulty of the Packers season this year, they're going to be playing in a lot of close games. That
yep,
third down and three, where Emmanuel Wilson or Marshawn Lloyd are in the game, and they don't get the third down in a critical spot, whoever's in there, that's going to matter.
yeah,
And as much as we like don't want it to matter, it most likely will at some point. And so, and it's like you point to that and be like, hey, that's a problem. Like that's they didn't lose because of that, but it's a data point into how they will go into the next week. Because I think if Marshawn Lloyd is healthy, I think that's where you're going to see the rotation of like, okay, this week we're gonna kind of ride Emmanuel Wilson. This week we're gonna kind of ride Marshawn Lloyd, and we'll see who is giving us better results week to week.
yeah,
And then maybe by the middle of the season they have a pecking order that they've fleshed out. But another thing that could be obviously uh, adjusted for injuries. So
yeah.
awesome. That's the offense, folks. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in a couple days. If you're probably listening to this, it's most likely Tuesday. So you'll most likely hear the other one on Thursday if I schedule them properly. So appreciate you hanging with us. I'm having fun talking Packers again. I'm getting excited. I want to see that pigskin get thrown around, Jordan. A little yeet across the football field. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not gonna match my energy.
No, I agree. Get that pigskin across a football field.
So, all right, folks, thank you for listening. Go check out all things GSPN at gspn.info. Uh, Bucks talk is rolling right along with all the news coming out of free agency and everything Dame, everything Miles Turner, everything Ryan Rollins, everything AJ Green. But yeah, check out
Everything's summer league.
everything Summer League
You
because
know they went 1-4 and it's over.
that's how it is every year with the Bucks. They rarely
Yeah,
win a
you gotta
game
love it.
in Summer League.
At least it's not the Pelicans.
That's at least not the Pelicans. Um, But yeah, Rohan and Ty have been talking a whole lot on that stuff. I think Ty recorded with Camille Davis of Lockdown Bucks yesterday, so go check
Hmm.
out this podcast with her. Um, if you've somehow missed it, my lovely co-host Jordan Tresky published his book, so go check out that. That's critical. I'd show it, but it's upstairs on my desk. So, oh, Jordan's got it right there. Building the Milwaukee Bucks, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, and the rapid rise of an NBA franchise from 1968 to 1975. Go check it out. If you're in our Discord, he's posted it multiple times. We can give you the link. Check his Twitter feed. It's there too.
Yeah.
If you have trouble finding it, let us know. It's a
I'll be
he'll be
right there to show you. I'm pointing. This is where it
this
is.
is where it is.
Yeah.
So go check it out. It's great. Jordan did a wonderful job on it. So
Thank you.
and then Jordan and Adam also talked about it on Win and Six a couple weeks ago. So go check out that episode as well if you want to learn more about it. Um, Adam and Andrew talking all things Brewers as they win their eighth straight game. Uh, four of the last four against the Dodgers as they're in LA. They'll be in LA. I suppose as you listen to this, the weekend's already finished. So
Still.
still, regardless, go check out Cruising for a Bruising. And then make time for this with the Junk Drawer Pod about all things movies and things like that. So, all right, folks, that is all for this episode. You're going to see us in the same exact clothes if you're watching on YouTube in the next episode. So, breaking the fourth wall here as we do. Appreciate you all listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.